Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your mini lesson as we start Unit 2. Today we're going to be talking about first encounters. We're going to be talking about colonists, Puritans, planters, explorers, exploiters. All these people have a place in the annals of American history and therefore have a place in American literature because of a reaction and a catalyst to action. And we're going to talk about that throughout this entire unit. Today, we're going to focus on the explorers and those first encounters between the Native Americans and the Native people in North America and South America, and the people that came exploring and looking for other things. So let's get underway. When Christopher Columbus landed on a tiny Caribbean island in 1492, he called the inhabitants Indians because he thought he was near the East Indies. One of the first men to try to communicate with Columbus inadvertently cut his hand on Columbus's sword because he didn't know what a sword was. Such events, mistaken identity and injury, marked the first recorded encounter between the native people of the Americas and the Europeans who were coming in increasing numbers over the next 500 years. Immediately following Columbus's declaration that the island had come under the control of the Spanish Empire, he found himself face to face with people already living there. The people he met were members of the Taino tribe, a division of the Arawak group, who are now considered extinct. The tribe was an agricultural society with well-developed cultural and social systems. Columbus vividly describes these native people as well as the Indians' geographical and natural features. He writes at length about his first impressions of the people, calling them Indians, because again, he thought he had led his ships to the East Indies. The name, which was found to be erroneous soon after Columbus returned to Europe, has been applied to the native peoples of North and South America for over 500 years. Not until very recently have steps been taken to correct this false identification of millions of people. Like we talked about in our Class Connect sessions, we refer to them as the native people or Native Americans. They were here before everyone else. Columbus also renamed the islands, tribes, and objects in the New World. Even though the two large continents to which Columbus introduced the Europeans do not carry his name, that gift being to Amerigo Vespucci, Columbus still left his mark and his name elsewhere throughout the land. We're going to look at a log entry for Christopher Columbus, so stick with me as we go through about 4 slides. And Friday, the 12th of October in 1492, also could fall under the 11th. The dates are a little bit skewed. Columbus writes, "No sooner had we concluded the formalities of taking possession of the island than people began to come to the beach, all as naked as their mothers bore them, and the women also, although I did not see more than one very young girl. All those that I saw were young people, none of whom was over 30 years old. They are very well-built people with handsome bodies and very fine faces, though their appearance is marred somewhat by very broad heads and foreheads, more so I had ever seen in any other race. Their eyes are large and very pretty, and their skin is the color of Canary Islanders or of sunburned peasants, not at all black, as would be expected because we are on an east-west line with Hero and the Canaries. These are tall people, and their legs, with no exceptions, are quite straight, and none of them has a paunch. They are in fact well proportioned. Their hair is not kinky but straight, and coarse like horsehair. They wear it short over their eyebrows, but they have a long hank in the back that was never cut. Many of the natives paint their faces, others paint their whole bodies. Some only the eyes or nose. Some are painted black, some white, some red, others are of different colors. The people here called this island Guanahani in their language, and their speech is very fluent, although I do not understand any of it. They are friendly and well-dispositioned people who bear no arms except for small spears, and they have no iron. I showed one my sword, and through ignorance, he grabbed it by the blade and cut himself. Their spears are made of wood, to which they attach a fish tooth at one end, or some other sharp thing. I want the natives to develop a friendly attitude towards us, because I know that they are people who can be made free and converted to our holy faith more by love than by force. I therefore gave red caps to some and glass beads to others. They hung the beads around their necks, along with some other things of slight value that I gave them. And they took great pleasure in this, and became so friendly that it was a marvel. They traded and gave everything they had with good will, but it seems to me that they have very little and are poor in everything. I warned my men to take nothing from the people without giving something in exchange. This afternoon the people of San Salvador came swimming to our ships and in boats made from one log. They brought us parrots, balls of cotton, thread, spears, and many other things, including a kind of dry leaf that they hold in great esteem. For these items we swapped them little glass beads and hawk's bells. Many of the men I have seen have scars on their body, and when I made signs to them to find out how this happened, they indicated that people from other nearby islands came to San Salvador to capture them. They defend themselves the best they can. I believe that people from the mainland come here to take them as slaves. They ought to make good and skilled servants, for they repeat very quickly whatever we say to them. I think they can easily be made Christians, for they seem to have no religion. If it pleases our Lord, I will take 6 of them to your highnesses when I depart, in order that they may learn our language. Although the first explorers' motivations for coming to the Americas were complex, many came for the reasons that people often seek danger, challenges, adventure, and a desire for fame and fortune. You see, European rulers had already sent explorers to India and China to bring back black spices, silks, gold, jewelry, and other luxuries. Columbus, of course, was looking for that shortcut, that logical next step, to these countries where he unexpectedly bumped into a new world. Once the European monarchs realized that Columbus had led the way to 2 previously unknown continents, they put their best explorers to work finding out what wealth they could gain from these new lands, and competition develops. Not all motivations for coming to the Americas were selfish ones, however. Reports of the existence of people in the Americas stirred many to come to spread Christianity. Others, such as English Puritans, came seeking their religious freedom that they were denied in their homelands. Nevertheless, for both Catholics and Protestants, Christianity was the only true religion. People who were not Christian had to be converted by persuasion or by force, and those who objected or rejected Christianity were considered enemies of God and suitable only for enslavement or death. The story of cultural contact, like the story of America itself, would not be complete without the experiences of the Africans who were brought here as slaves. The European trade in enslaved Africans had been started by the Portuguese during the 1400s, and enslaved Africans accompanied most of the Spanish and Portuguese explorers in the Americas. In fact, one of the 3 men who survived with Cabeza de Vaca on his disastrous journey was an enslaved African named Esteban. Africans were first brought in large numbers to the West Indies to provide labor for the vast sugar plantations. At first, Spanish plantation owners had tried to use Indian labor, but the native peoples proved too susceptible to European diseases and unable to withstand the harsh treatments of their masters. Africans took their place, and before long, English colonists were also participating in the slave trade. In 1619, 12 years after the founding of Jamestown, Virginia, the first permanent settlement in the Americas, 20 Africans were brought here as indentured servants. 18 years later, the first American-built slave ship, the Desire, set sail from Marblehead, Massachusetts. One of the few first-hand accounts, of the perilous 2 months that enslaved Africans spent packed in ships bound for the Americas is that of Olata Aquino. We'll read about his experiences in the coming weeks. Do be sure to take down your notes, ladies and gentlemen, as best you can. We will continue with another mini lesson when we get to Puritanism and as we start preparation for the Crucible. If you have any questions, please reach out to your instructors. They are here to help. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.